Hello, Authentic Dating Secrets community. Wanted to take a few minutes here to connect with who is a really extraordinary human being that I had the pleasure of connecting with, meeting just a few months ago, I guess, right? It hasn't been too long.
Yeah, I think it
And
was August.
yeah, August, it's December now, a few months. Um, Sebastian is signed up for our deep dive Authentic Dating Secrets 11-week training, and and it hasn't begun yet. He signed up for the program a couple months ago. He went through the 5-day Double Your Dating Confidence challenge that we held a little bit back, and I wanted to spend some time with you, Sebastian, because it's just so cool to see. One of the things that I love the most is when a guy signs up for the program and he starts getting results even before the program begins. And you and I spoke before this conversation, and you're still in process. I'm still in process. We're all in process. Um, and while while you're still in process, there have been some really cool results, inner results and outer results that you've achieved in your life. And I think it's actually really inspiring and possibly more relatable to men to talk to a guy who's making really beautiful, consistent progress in his dating life. It's not like you went from you know, crippling depression to all of a sudden I'm buried in 20 women who want banging down my door every night, to have sex with me or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
step one, step two.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there are some people who have really exponential success, and that can be great and that can be inspiring. But there's something really cool about talking to a guy who's having just like really solid, consistent, progressive results and success in his how he's relating to himself and how he's relating with women. So that's really the context for why I wanted to invite you onto this conversation. Plus, I like you, and we get to
Likewise, Robert. Thanks.
thank you, and we get to talk about just you and your journey and dating. And when we spoke before on the phone, the thing that really sparked me to want to uh, go live with you is that you had some really powerful wisdom and insights. Like, I'll just say one of the things that I know for myself is that yes, I teach this stuff and I lead these workshops and I lead these trainings, but I don't have all the damn answers. And some of the guys that we work with are brilliant. So I wanted to spend some time just hearing about your story, drawing out some of your brilliance, drawing out some insights that I'm sure will be really helpful for the men listening. So,
For sure.
yeah. So I'd love to start and just get a little bit of a high level of where you started and where you're at in your dating life now. So you and I met for the first time in August, and share a little bit about um, what was the scenario in your dating life, the actual dates and women that you were seeing or not seeing, and then also how you were feeling about yourself inside. Let's start with that.
Sure. So, this year, COVID-19 is definitely a thing. It's a pandemic. Can't ignore that. Um, so I think it was partly a barrier, but it was almost like an excuse, you know? And what I was using, sorry, just a second here, just make sure I don't have the instructions. So I was the pandemic that was kind of, oh, this is something you're gonna have to deal with. And I was using it as an excuse as to why I wasn't meeting anybody. And then
I just want to pop in and say that that's a really common thing that we hear from guys.
yes,
So yeah.
yes. So it's been quite the challenge to go through that. But the the I think it's just like you have to understand that it is a barrier, but it is not something that is going to make or break the connection with women.
Mm.
So that was something that I had to go through, and I had to. So basically, essentially, I wasn't going on any dates, and basically, what I was trying to do was I was trying to do the inner work of why I wasn't making any that kind of romantic connections, and then I was also working on online dating profile stuff, but I wasn't really seeing much success with that at all. It was very little.
Got it. So you're kind of doing some of your inner work to create more success with women. You were fiddling around with your profile, and you also had it in your head that it's harder, you know, COVID-19 is making it harder to meet women, or it's blocking me from meeting women? How would you have framed it exactly?
I think it started off with blocking, and then as I got through it, it was saying, okay, now it's making it harder. So it was kind of like a slow shift. But it definitely at the beginning, it definitely was like, this is impossible, or how do I make connections? Even just friendships,
Yeah.
or social events in general.
Mm,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah. And how did you feel within all of that? What was the emotional landscape for you at that time?
I have to say it was I felt it was kind of lonely, but it also kind of felt a bit hopeless at times. I knew it could change, but I just didn't know how. And yeah, so it was kind of some confusion and a bit of it felt really daunting.
Hmm. And what were you seeking? What kinds of connections? Because some guys, they want to date and have sex with a lot of women. Some guys, they're looking for their partner that they want to be with for the rest of their life. What were you looking for at the time?
For myself, I definitely wanted to connect with people, but I think what I was looking for was a relationship, which I still am. Um, but yeah, not to necessarily to rush into anything,
Hmm.
just to explore and connect with women. But ultimately, I was looking for a relationship, and I still am. So
Yeah, got it. Okay, cool.
yeah,
And so talk to me about, trying to think if we want to go through your journey. Yeah, talk to me about where you're at in this moment. Just what are some of the shifts that you've seen inside of yourself? What are some of the shifts that you've seen in your actual dating life? And paint a little bit of a now picture.
sure. So like I said, talked about this dating, like kind of recreating the dating profile stuff. So one of the barriers I had to go through was a little bit of seeing photos and seeing like I kind of realized I had a bit of an insecurity around the way I looked in photos. So I kind of had to just take a lot more photos and experiment and go through photos and actually get more comfortable doing that and then willing to share that. So it was a lot of actually recreating, trying to get new photos and doing some research and saying, hey, I could try this out. So,
Mhm.
and then I got some feedback from you, Robert, and some of the other guys, which definitely helped. And I got some feedback from friends, both guys and women, and started seeing a little bit more results. I wouldn't say I'm the king with online dating. I think it's still an ongoing process, but one of the shifts is that I started actually making matches, and for some people that I found was interesting. Well, more or I don't think I ever made, with the exception of this one person. It was never really didn't really lead to anywhere, but I was actually making more matches, which was exciting because I wasn't really making anything.
Mhm.
So, and then it was also just trying to recreate bios, trying to see how I can present myself, because it's a little bit scary to willingly say what you want and who you are.
Yeah, and I would, and let me summarize that real quick, and then I want to just unpack that a little bit more. So you
For
went from
sure.
making basically no matches to getting some matches, um, and you know there was still was or is still a process of, okay, how do I get even more quality matches? Is that what I'm hearing? You
Yes,
kind of like
exactly.
translate those matches into dates, basically.
Yes, yes. And I did have some conversations with some people. And one thing I realized, and this is actually a connection I've made with one girl who I've gone on 3 dates with, and it sounds like we're going to be setting up a fourth one. So I'm happy about it. So that's
Yeah,
a big one.
yeah,
That's a big change because I didn't really have high expectations, and it just seemed to kind of progress to that. So it's been great. Um, but I think one thing I realized when you're talking with people, like when you're messaging people in the app, is that if you're bored sending them messages, they're probably going to be bored too.
oh my god.
So I was like, so why am I not making these connections? And then I realized, well, why don't I just be a little playful and tease them, or say, what, this is, I'm looking towards this. So I just kind of playfully gestured at, you know, hey, I'd like to make connections. Make a date, and then they asked what seems to be the problem, and then I kind of just playfully gestured like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Like, ask me more questions or some things like that, and then like it started actually growing. So
Got it. So you're getting more matches. You're going about to go on your fourth date. You're getting some more connections with women, and you're just. It sounds like you're feeling better in yourself. You're feeling more relaxed. You're feeling more playful.
Yeah, absolutely.
How else are you feeling internally?
I'm feeling I'm feeling like you said, that like it was like the daunting aspect. It's more hopeful and more like inquisitive and like
Huh.
curious, like, hey, what can I do? So like that said with like the pandemic kind of thing, like it's with myself is like I did get come down with a little sore throat kind of thing. So that I definitely know there's definitely some challenges, of connecting with people and having to wait till that clears up and everything. So, so I just thought of, hey, like we're supposed to do a couple of the dates I went on. I had to get creative and just do them online, and think of fun ways to do that instead of meeting in person because they were just within the time frame and they both went pretty well. And they were even appreciative of the fact that I was able to come up with some fun ideas online.
Yeah, great. Um,
Yeah.
so basically, and I love what you said there, that shift from lonely and maybe even hopeless to curious. And it sounds like, I mean, for me, tell me how it is for you, but for me, when there's curiosity, there's always some level of excitement attached to it. Also, it's like, oh, I'm curious what happens if I, this, or I'm curious what's over in this direction. And there is a quality of excitement, which for me is very much the opposite of hopelessness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you see curiosity. It's like I think that one of the big shifts is focusing on what I want rather than what I don't want.
Yeah, and I was about to go here. So, we've gotten a picture of where you were at, where you are now, and this is just over the period of a few months. So, what happened that allowed you to go from no matches, no dates, feeling hopeless to feeling hopeful, feeling curious, being more playful, really like digging into it and getting some different results? What were
So,
some of the actions that you took, and what are some of the inner shifts that you've created also?
so there's been a combination of things. I think it's one thing is for that kind of inner work, for example, is like therapy if you need to go through that. So that's some stuff I did. um, kind of changing your relationships and your kind of like almost deep seated beliefs about these things. That's really important. So that's one aspect I
And
did
I'm
it.
curious to get specific. What's an example of a deep seated belief that you worked on that you made some progress around?
Yeah, one of them was insecure. Like I think around how you won't. I think it's like around insecure, around connecting with people and not losing your independence. You can still like having more of a healthier way of connecting with people because I
Mm,
had this belief that, oh, hey, if I make a connection now, they're just going to kind of walk over me or all my time's going to be gone.
mm.
Going from 0 to 100, being super independent, and then all of a sudden now you're a doormat, which
Okay.
which is really weird because in a lot of other areas of my life, I don't feel that way.
Huh. And so, what's the belief that's been starting to be installed in in its place?
It's more just like I have a lot to offer and like how can I incorporate that as part of my life rather than to the exclusion of everything
Mm.
else.
Got it. Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So,
So
are
that
there like inner shifts and outer actions and
so that's one action. So obviously part of that I like journaling. So another one was actually reaching out to checking out. I listened to a lot of podcasts about dating, and one of them was on that. What's it called?
the
Uh,
Rising Man podcast? The
Rising
one.
Man podcast. Yeah, with Jetty Azuma.
Yeah.
So he interviewed you, and when I listened to that conversation, it resonated with you a lot.
Yeah.
And I
I'll
was
drop a
like,
link to that interview. It was a good interview. I'll drop a link in the comments.
yeah, totally was. So I was like, hey, like, why don't I just check this out? I'm curious. So leading into that curiosity. And then when I did that, I saw your guys' webinar about authentic dating secrets. And when I watched it, it was really cool. But then there was something coming up to me being like, oh, I'm not so sure about this. But it wasn't actually anything to do with your guys' stuff. It was actually to do with me kind of facing that edge and going, do I actually want to connect with them and make a commitment, join this authentic dating secrets. There was a bit some fear there.
Yeah, and I imagine this is something that a lot of guys whom I may never even talk to, or some of them hopefully maybe will watch this and I get to talk to them, are experiencing. What was the fear that you were really bumping up against there, if you were to unpack it?
That fear was probably just, I think that fear of just the fact that someone else would hold me accountable. And um, I think I'd have to actually be vulnerable and actually get myself out there. I think that was the
Uh,
thing that was scary. A lot of the times I could talk about it with more with friends, but a lot of times I just wouldn't have these conversations around dating or these kind of things. And that when I would do this with you guys, that goes exactly in the face of that. So yeah, so it's just like saying, do I want to take a chance on this? And originally it was like, maybe, maybe not, but it's
yeah.
like, why not? Let's just give it a try.
And behind that, is that like a fear of being seen or a fear of rejection if you were to step out and start taking action with women, or maybe both?
Yeah, fear of rejection. What was the other part you asked?
A fear of being seen, of just being more vulnerable and talking about your inner
Yeah,
world.
yeah, exactly. Being just having to show who you are and, the good and the bad and owning that. That's kind of scary, but that's some of the shifts I've been doing. So that's been really exciting.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Um,
and also the authentic the 5 day double dating your conf was it the 5 day double your dating confidence challenge. So that was I have been doing some of these in order to prepare for the course. So people who are not aware, there is some assignments. So those were actually really good to kind of help me take it really slow. And there was one challenge that's part of the 5 day double your dating confidence challenge where you go out, and I'm sure some of these guys have seen this or tried it out themselves, is to compliment 5 women. And then the second assignment is tell a funny joke or ask a funny
yeah, it was.
question.
I love this assignment. It's go out to. We had you go out to two women and say, "Hey, I've got a bet going on with my friends. Do you think I look more like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise?" And then if you're wearing a mask because it's COVID-19, you say, "Do you think I look more like Brad Pitt wearing a mask or Tom Cruise wearing a mask?"
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that was something that I had done earlier, like a version of that to prepare beforehand, but it's something I took really slow. I did one woman this one day, and then later on, I did a couple in a day, and then one, and then maybe another one. So it was kind of spread out over a couple weeks.
Mm.
Took it really slow and faced a lot of kind of inner um, beliefs, kind of saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't bother. What are they going to think?" or the people surrounding. So that was something I definitely faced. So it was definitely confronting, but it was the more
And,
you did it,
and what did they think?
pretty much every single woman of the 5 that I did originally smiled and thanked me. The first one I did was really, really powerful. And then maybe one, I think it was like on the street, I just gave her a compliment on her hair. And she kind of, maybe she was already in the middle of something and just kind of very much laser focused. So she was kind of a little bit like, oh, thanks. So like, but it wasn't bad or anything. Like I didn't say anything offensive. I said something that was flattering and she kind of just took it and like, oh, thanks. But I'm not sure if it really landed that well, but it's not like it hurt anything.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that was that. But I think I did another 6 women or something like that. And then when we did the 5 day W dating contest challenge and doing that assignment, instead of doing the 5 women, I did, I think, 8 different women I
Ah,
complimented. And then I did 2 for that because by the time I got to number 4, I think I started getting really excited. It was really
ah,
fearful at first. It was a bit like, oh no. And then I was like, hey, I can keep doing this. And yeah, so I went up to some people who were smoking hot and I was able to just confidently say things I thought about them that were, really genuine, that felt good,
yeah,
didn't feel disingenuous or anything. And I didn't believe that I could really do that well. And I
yeah.
did.
And
So
how did it land for them?
every single one of them was like, thank you. And one of the girls, I gave her a compliment on her earrings and she was like, that's one of the best compliments I've ever received. It's like,
Oh,
thank you so much. And I was like, holy, that
wow.
felt amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And was she one of the smoking hot women?
She was pretty attractive, but
Yeah.
she wasn't the main one that I would go for. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was actually like a, hey, I'm about to get going, but might as well just give this woman a compliment as well.
Yeah. And I'm still just tracking the progression for you. It sounds like a tremendous amount of progression in just a few months.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I had done a lot of the inner work, and now I was kind of going back to like where I was before. I was having a hard time, making connections or going out and building those kind of romantic connections with women, or go doing online dating, matching with people. So, or connecting that to dates. Whereas now it's like I feel like I can do it. I feel capable, and yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah. And it's, one of the fears for men in general around approaching women is how am I going to come across? And especially in COVID-19. And it's that stops men oftentimes. And what I'm hearing is that there's like a sense of, I don't know, just relaxed confidence and maybe curiosity and excitement that you're bringing that is opening up completely new opportunities and worlds for you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I didn't really. It's kind of changed the relationship I have with myself overall, but also just specifically with in terms of dating and seeing myself, as an attractive man, and that I can connect with attractive women in a much more like realistic and healthier way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And effective way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think that with that connection with that one woman, I was doing the online dating stuff and I was getting some results. And then when I did those few dates with the woman and I was going to set up forth, I just got off the dating apps because I was like, I'd like to focus on this. And then if I change directions, then I can go back on there. But for the time being, I just off it for now. So I feel
Yeah.
it just feels good to me for that.
Yeah. Great. I love it. Um, and there's something that Joshua and I were speaking about just the other day that I think is really relevant to a kind of sub layer of this conversation, which is that, how do I want to put it right now? I want to frame it this way. It's that there's something that we find with the guys who step into this program, into the full program, especially, who are there's like a hunger or a readiness there. And always it's vulnerable for them to do that. I talk to a lot of guys, and the guys who do say yes to our paid programs, a lot of them are like, I feel scared or nervous or something to that effect. And every time I'm like, you're not in the right place if you don't feel a little bit nervous, at least, because it means that you're leaning into your edge. You talked also earlier about the approaching the 8 women in the one day and how it felt fearful at first, but then that transformed into excitement. How many? 10?
Oh, it was actually 10. Yeah.
10. I'm totally getting, how am I how am I screwing that up?
Again, I kind of sound like I'm bragging when I say that.
It's just honest. It's just honest. And like, there's totally room for Brett. Like, this is so celebration worthy.
And
stuff.
yeah, and I could have that night, like when you guys assigned that challenge, I think it was like something like 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and it's COVID-19, and I thought, I'm a little out of town, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get a workout in, and I'm also gonna do this assignment. So like, you can do both, and it got me out of the house and just like, where's a good place? And I thought of a place, and it's a big gym facility, like huge, lots of open spaces, and lots of different women there and men. So it's like, is a good place to do it.
Yeah.
But and I almost talked myself out of it. So
you almost did. And you almost lost out on not just a really cool story, but the growth and the level of like self-confidence that you got from it. Joshua says that fear is nothing but energy that wants to move through your body in a moment of opportunity. And I think that moment of, stepping into saying, yes, I'm going to do this single assignment and go out and talk to women, and having that completely open up and turn into excitement and energy and, life force for you. There are just so many different parallels. It really parallels that moment too, when you're talking about listening to the podcast and being like, God, do I want to talk to this guy? Do I want to talk to these guys? Do I want to reveal myself? Do I want to put myself in the position of being vulnerable with not just with other men, but with women and really with myself? Do I want to take that step of really doing the work to improve my life? And but there's like a level of readiness there that I experience in you. And it's those guys who are ready, who are really ready to lean into the fear and use that as energy to create opportunities in the moments where they're presented. They're hungry. Hungry is one of the best words that I can use. They might be scared, they might be this, they might be that, but they're fucking hungry. And sometimes they're fed up with how it has been. And they're like,
Yeah,
I'm ready to actually make this change. Those are the guys that come, well, number one, that come into the program and get really extraordinary results. But then they're guys like you who, before the damn program even starts, they're like, hey, Schwinkler, look at all this stuff is happening in my life already. I'm getting these results. I'm going on these dates. I'm approaching these women. And yeah, I think about this a lot. The guy who's not quite there with the guy who's just there and who's like, yes, I'm ready, even though I'm scared. Um, I guess if you were speaking to the guy who's kind of like right in that in between space, and he's like, I know I want this. I feel fucking terrified. I feel really resistant. Um, I might get rejected. It's going to maybe cost time, maybe energy, maybe money. I'm going to have to commit to myself, but there is like somewhere in there, there's like a fire burning inside of him. What would you say to that guy just based on you and your journey?
for sure. So that's kind of when I talked to Robert, that's kind of where I was at, that exact phase you're talking about.
Mm.
So, like you asked me, where on a scale of 1 to 10, how hungry are you? I think you'd asked me, and I think
Mm.
I was at a 5, and you were a bit surprised, and I said, I could see as I work up to it, I'm kind of slowly easing into it, and that was true. And then now, instead of like a 5 out of 10, I'm like 8, 9 out of 10 kind of thing. So it's actually, I didn't quite see that happening in a few months.
Hmm.
So I think what I would say to those guys is just, like, what do you have to lose, and also just to ask yourself, like, what do you actually want? Focus on what you want, not what you want. Even if you're, for example, if you're reading a bunch of or watching some YouTube videos and or listen to a podcast and you listen to something that's maybe further confirming your like current existence, like, oh, I'm just not someone who can get any woman, or I can't, maybe you listen to some of these things that they have some element of truth, but they're kind of almost keeping you in the same place.
Mm.
It's like, listen to the podcast or listen to some of these dating stuff or in that area that is going to help you along to where you actually want, not where you are at.
And you had meant, I wanted to dive more into this earlier because I'm glad you're bringing it up. You had mentioned it briefly that one of the shifts that you have made is focusing on what I want, taking my attention off of like, oh, I'm not this, or I'm not that, or that's not happening, or and really setting your sights on, what did you set your sights on personally? What did that
Yeah,
shift
yeah.
look like for you?
So, I mean, with the COVID stuff, that at first it was happening, and then with some of this COVID stuff in the last couple of weeks, it hasn't happened. But I think I can pick it up pretty quickly. Um, but it was basically, I set up a couple goals, which is basically within the next 6 months. I think this was August. You'd asked me, and I said basically within the next 6 months, I'd like to get a girlfriend. I'd like to go on 1 to 2 dates every week, and then I think it was, or 1 to 2 dates every 2 weeks, I think it was. And then I can't remember the third one. But yeah, just to be comfortable with my body and, expressing sexuality, being more comfortable with women's sexuality and mine, like, just being more accepting of that, open to it. And I think the third one, yes, I've gotten some progress on that. The dates, I was going on, a date every week with this one girl, so that was really exciting. And then the second one, yeah, that's getting, or one of the things is getting a girlfriend. So that's something that's kind of, yeah, something I'm still looking at. But it's so that's some of the things I've been looking at, and yeah, it's been really exciting seeing that, because I was like, do it. Yeah, I just didn't see this happening as fast as it did.
Awesome. I'm so celebrating you. It makes me so happy to hear those words coming out of your mouth. So,
Yeah.
and there's lucky ladies out there who get to experience you. And I really mean that. It might sound a little, uh, I don't know I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. It might sound a little, What word am I trying to think of right now?
Braggy or cocky or
Yeah, maybe something like that. I don't, but it's true. Joshua and I talk to so many women out there who are like, where are the guys who know how to bring it? The guys who know how to show up and bring their desire and bring their play and bring their, some of their more animal primal elements, and who know how to do it without being a goddamn douchebag. Women are
yeah.
fucking starving for that. And I talk to so many of them. And so it's not, I think hyperbole is the word was trying to think of. It's not like hyperbole or just some random words that I'm saying when I say you're going to make women's world better. Like you already have, I have no doubt, and will
Thanks.
continue to. It's like men who are making the transformation that you're doing are women.
Yeah,
So
and I want to say too, just
I
on that
mean,
note,
too.
is
There's some really
oh yeah,
go ahead.
sorry, yeah. Oh, what I was gonna say was on that thing at the beginning. This is early this year, and then kind of in August. One thing I kept asking myself, and I was looking at other people, and I was at first it was kind of inquisitive, then it kind of got more of a victim mindset, and then it kind of got more back to more inquisitive and more healthier. But one thing I kept asking myself, looking at other people with healthy relationships, whether they're however in shape they are, what their careers are, where they're at in life. I was always going like, why did they have this and why do I not? Like, what am I missing? That's something I kept asking myself. What am I missing that they have that I don't? And I think that I have the answer to that. It's owning your desire, like owning the fact that owning your desire and also owning who you are and being more confident about that. That was the thing that I finally have the answer to that question that I kept asking myself.
Yeah. Owning your value and claiming your desire, expressing desire without demand.
Yeah, that was the thing I was saying. What am I missing? That's what I was missing.
Beautiful. I think that's a really beautiful place to wrap this conversation up. I'll just say to any guy listening, if you want to get on the phone with Joshua and I and join Sebastian and some other men on this journey, would love to talk to you. I'll drop that link in the comments. And yeah, for any of the guys who are watching this in the Facebook group, if you've got questions or anything like that, I'm there, Sebastian's there. And if you've got questions, ask away. And I would love for you to chime in with your wisdom, Sebastian. I certainly will.
For sure.
And overall, just really a pleasure and a joy it makes me so happy just to get to hear these stories back and be like, hey, look what's happening in my life as a result of, we haven't even done the damn course. He's like, I just paid you some money and all this stuff is happening in my life and we haven't even done anything yet.
Yeah. And it's like, I think you guys have said this in the 5-Day W Dating Confidence Challenge, but I'm starting to notice that in other aspects of life too. So that's the cool aspect too. Like it does impact that other stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we hear that from every guy who goes through the training, who gets great results, that they oftentimes will talk about business. They'll talk about just, yeah. And that is the thing that we talk about, that these pillars that we teach around, learning how to own your value, claim your desire and express it without demand, understand women's world, get support, get mentorship, be in community with other men. All of those pillars are ones that are they're foundations and platforms for intimacy and connection and relationship everywhere in your life, for
100%.
extended partnership, what else is business and making money, but series of relationships and cultivating connection with people. So yes, glad that you're mentioning that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that one last thing on that note is I find it's really interesting is that I find it's much more common, not all women, it's just a big generalization that maybe you can reflect on that, is that a lot of women will be talking about relationships and this kind of stuff, or even just relationships in general, whether it's friendships, dating, especially dating, much more than men will, And I feel like that's something that men have to do some catching up on.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And I don't even want to say have to. It's like, brother, if you want to have better results in your dating life, it's simple. You just step up your game. And you spoke to that earlier too. I was talking to who was I speaking to? I was speaking to a female friend of mine, and she was talking about the quality of the photos that she sees on dating apps. And she's just like, are you kidding me? And the fact that you stepped up your game and actually put effort into your dating profile, that, that alone, let alone all the other stuff that you've been doing to work on yourself, automatically sets you above literally 99 fucking percent of the guys on those dating apps. And I'm not
Mhm.
exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating at all.
Yeah,
And
thanks. Yeah, it's kind of hard to kind of realize that until you've done some of the work there. And it's also to realize that this isn't all just like, hey, this is great. There's been a lot of doubt and a lot of reflection and going, can I really do this? Especially with the online dating stuff, that's been a lot of barriers. At first, I just felt like, what's the point? I even tried it a few years ago, and I remember thinking this was not for me.
mm,
you know?
yeah, within all of that, there is peace around, you're talking about catching up to women, and it's like there are a lot of women out there looking for a dude who's putting in the work and putting in the energy and working on himself and stepping up his game. And the thing that I wish I could just transmit to every guy is that it is so in your best interest to step up your game in that kind of a way. The
Totally.
benefits that you get to reap as a result are out of this fucking world. I know they are for me. They are for the other guys we work with. It's so goddamn worth it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's worth it in this aspect. It's also worth it in the rest of your life too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sebastian, thank you so much. It's been really beautiful to get to spend this time with you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with the guys in the Facebook group. And we'll be keeping an eye out in the comments.
for sure. Thanks for having me, Robert.